I'm sure I've said this several times before, but this next topic is going to be one of the most commonly used features of ES6 that you're going to run up against. So there's likely no single feature that gives you more flexibility over the style of code you write, especially when we start writing functions. So without any more buildup, let's talk about the next ES6 topic, which is destructuring. As usual, we'll start with some ES5 code and then refactor it into equivalent ES6. So let's imagine for a minute that we're building an object that represents an expense, like a financial expense, something you pay money for. An expense should probably have a type of expense and maybe an amount or like a dollar value attached to it. So we'll make an object to represent this expense. And again, this is going to be our ES5 code to start off with, so I'm going to use the var keyword here. So maybe we've got a type of expense, and the type might be business, and we might have an amount of maybe $45 USD. So with all the ES6 code that we've been working through, the absolute most common thread that we've been seeing is that we seek to avoid rewriting duplicate code whenever possible. In this case, maybe we want to later on at some point in time reference the type and the amount on this object right here. How might we do that? We would have to write something like var type is expense.type and var amount is expense.amount. So again, the most common thread that we have throughout all of ES6 is we want to reduce the amount of duplicate code that we see. And so in these two lines right here, I see that we have duplicated the word type twice, we've got expense twice, we've got amount twice, and we've got var twice in here as well. So as you might imagine, destructuring in ES6 is all about making assignment like this, assigning properties off of an object, a little bit easier to do, just by reducing the amount of duplicate code we have. So let's refactor this over to ES6 and see what it would look like. So with ES6, and this is going to look a little bit weird to start off with, let's put the code down and then talk about it. So I'm going to say const type equals expense and const amount equals expense, like so. And then just because I'm getting a little bit of complaint about redeclaring a variable, I'm going to comment out those lines. So the ES5 that we had before, 100% equivalent to the ES6 we have right here. By using these curly braces on the left-hand side of the equal sign, we are not, let me be very clear about this, we are not creating an object here. Okay, so this is not making an object. This is not tied to having identical key and value as we did when we were going over the improved object literals. What these curly braces say when they're on the left-hand side of the equal sign is, I want to declare a new variable called type, and I want it to reference the expense.type property. Identical thing with amount. We're saying I want to declare a variable called amount, and I want it to be set equal to expense.amount. Okay, so we are pulling a property off of this name off of the object, and that property will be assigned to a variable of the same exact name. Now, even with this approach right here, we've kind of dropped off the .type and the .amount that we have. But even with what we have right here, we still have duplicate const and expense. So when we are destructuring properties or pulling properties off an object, we can combine many of these, this operation into a single line here. So I could combine both these lines into const type, comma, amount, like so. And then if I reference type and amount, I get business and $45 USD. So one more time. We created two constant variables. They are declared with the names of type and amount, and they get assigned the value of the property expense.type and expense.amount. Okay. So let's dive into a little bit more details here. First, a very common question you might have. Does the variable name that we put in here have to match up to the property name? And the answer to that is yes, absolutely. The name of the variable in here must be identical to the property name that we're trying to copy off. So we could not do something like, my type. And then if we change this to my type would now be undefined because we're trying to reference the my type property off of expense. So whatever property we're trying to reference must be identical to the variable name on the left-hand side. Next, what happens when we try to destructure a property that doesn't exist? Well, we kind of just saw that when I put my type in there. If I do ASDF as another property, and I try to log it, it's going to be undefined. So this is going to produce undefined right here. And as a matter of fact, I think we could probably, yeah, there we go. So type of ASDF, it is undefined. So if we reference a property off of an object that does not exist, just as if we had said like, you know, expense.asdf, it's going to come up as undefined. So you're safe to always destructure off an object in the case where, like, you know, maybe you don't know what the property is that you want. You're always safe to kind of dig around there and try to figure out what you want. It's just going to be undefined. It will not throw an error. Okay, let's look at some more complex examples of this in the next section.